So I don't know if they really got like the point of the story. Was this book well written? No. Did I still enjoy it anyway? Also no. Okay, kind of like whatever, I don't care anyway. Hello, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping this one will be kind of a laugh, kind of a fun time, but it also might be a little bit painful for me, but I thought I'd try it out, see how it goes. So my name's Gabrielle, if you've never watched one of my videos, and today I decided to try reacting to some 1-star reviews of some of my favorite books. I will do probably about 5 of my favorite books and share my thoughts on the reviews. If you've read any of my favorites, let me know, and let me know how you feel about seeing someone hate something that you love so much. Generally, I'm okay with people not liking the books that I read, but sometimes it is a bit painful if you just love it so much. So let's just go ahead and try it out. All right, I'm gonna start off with the 3rd book within the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy, titled Gleam. So of course it's a 1-star. It says, so I started the series because I was bored and I'm currently reading because I remain bored. The number of books written about fae fairies, just fairy, why don't anyone call them like this, is absurd. I don't understand the trend. Anyway, my review is just a frustrated ranting on why are some books the way that they are, but anyway. Okay, this one's super long. I mean, okay, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but like this one, I love books written about fae and fairies, so I understand if someone doesn't like them as much. But I don't think that you should necessarily dislike a book because that's what it includes. I think if the plot is bad or if the characters have really bad development, then okay, but I don't necessarily disagree on rating a book poorly because of the creatures that are in it, unless it like specifically said it wouldn't have those creatures. I don't know. Let's try a different one. I don't know if that one was the best. Oh gosh. Okay, the first sentence of this one is sad. Generally don't understand why people love this book. This has definitely been a tough read for me. I DNF'd this book originally, but the overwhelming amount of people who love this series enough to own the set was enough for me to push through and finish. And man, was I disappointed. Everyone's saying it gets better in the 2nd book, and I'm praying it does, but I'm low-key disgusted. It's not even that I don't understand Smart or Spice, but the way that Midas spoke to the main character was so demeaning. Okay, this one's a little frustrating because it looks like they're rating the 1st book, but this review is under the 3rd book in the series. So for those who aren't as familiar with the series, like there is a demeaning person who is, I don't think, portrayed as the love interest in the book. Like the main character thinks she loves him, but I don't think that he's portrayed as a good person. So yes, he is demeaning because he is a bad person. So I don't know if they really got like the point of the story. I also don't know if they put that under the right book, but let's just keep going. Oh no, this person said I'm in so much pain because of this book/series and I will never get the hype about them. But then it's book talk, so I should know by now that every hyped up book talk book is BS. Ugh. It's another long one. It's saying that a lot happens, but minimum is the actual plot. There is some spice. And they're saying that they wish that the author had more people review. I mean, sure, these books were originally indie published. I think they've been picked up by traditional publishers, but the series was originally independently published. I think that it does a great job. In general, like I loved it when I first read this series. It's not done. There's actually one more being released in December of 2023. But I love the series overall. I think it is a very slow burn, I will say, compared to some of the other popular books. Like it takes multiple books to get to the spice. So it was like touted as a spicy series, but I wouldn't say overall that it is, since it does take multiple books to get there. But I think the growth of the main character really did it for me, and I find it a super, super easy read. Like, I think the books are so easy to just read. Okay, the next one that I want to check out 1-star reviews for is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I read this, I think it was just in December, and like 5 stars for me. This book like totally took me by surprise. I didn't really know what it was going to be about, but I had received recommendations for it, so I decided to check it out, and like I was wowed. It's about a girl who is just totally unsatisfied with her life. I think it's in maybe 1500s, 1600s when she's alive, living in France, and she makes this wish to this dark spirit. I'm not sure exactly what her wish was, but ultimately it results in her gaining immortality until she decides that she doesn't want to live anymore. So this dark spirit figure kind of haunts her throughout her life as she continues living and tries to get her to no longer want to live. And part of the trick that he's kind of played by giving her this immortality is that everyone she meets does not remember her. So, you know, within 5 seconds of them turning away from her, no longer paying attention to her, they don't remember who she is anymore. So she can't actually have any meaningful connections or relationships until one day someone remembers her. That's kind of the general premise, but it's really like amazing. I love it. It's by V.E. Schwab. So let's jump into the 1 stars. Okay, this person says, was this book well written? No. Did I still enjoy it anyway? Also no. Okay. So they started off strong, and that actually makes me very sad because I do think that this book was well written and I loved it. So that's kind of disappointing, but let's keep going. For the character that she is, Addie would simply have been invisible to everyone, even in normal circumstances. From what I read, this book is V.E. Schwab's best work, so rest assured I will never pick up any of her other books because reading this felt like a bad life decision, which almost pushed me into a pre-midlife crisis. For starters, this book being 500 pages long made 0 sense when it could have been better off as a 50-page short story. I don't agree with that. It picked up the concept of proper or even acceptable pacing and threw it out the window to such a far distance that reading the first quarter of this book should be introduced as a stage in a survival TV show because it really is that hard to get through. And as it moves forward, does it though? It hardly gets any better. Oh my gosh, okay, this person's kind of funny with the way they write does it though. But okay, I can kind of agree a little bit with them on the pacing. Like, I think we could have gotten into the real meat of the story a little bit early on. So I'll give them that one. It could have been a little bit shorter. Though personally, I didn't mind it when I was reading it. Like, I don't remember at any point thinking like, oh, this is kind of dragging a little bit, or like, okay, let's pick it up. I loved it the whole way through, and I just kept being like, oh wow, this is interesting. Is this where it's gonna go down? And it just kept, you know, surprising me with the new twists and turns, but I could see some elements of it being removed so it's a little bit more concise, but I don't think it would have been as good as a short story. I think the overall theme and message of the story could have been portrayed in a short story, but not as much of the depth, I think. Okay, let's see another one. This one says, underwhelming. Schwab is better than this. An interesting premise about the twin desires that rule us all, to be remembered and to be good enough for someone else. The big ideas were quickly rendered trite and insipid. If I were 20 years younger, I might have loved this book for its YA hipster signaling, shoegazing, weepy maudlin BS. Unfortunately, I'm an adult. To woo, love, and pretty white girls with constellations of freckles bore me to tears. This was just so disappointing, like a step above Twilight. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's kind of hilarious that she's making a little Princess Bride reference. For those who haven't read the book, it's absolutely nothing like Twilight. So in terms of like what's in the story, that I think they were just referring to maybe how they approached or how they perceived the quality of the writing. I have read other books by Schwab. Only one though, so not that many. But out of the two that I've read, the writing is like vastly different, and this is her better work for sure. Like, I didn't like the other book that I read by her, which I really appreciate, you know? Like, I like someone who can write so differently, where I might hate something that they write and absolutely adore another thing. I think that's really interesting and shows that they're not just writing for the same person or the same audience. It can be a challenge, of course, because then you may not know if something you write is for you, but that's the joy of reading, is trying it out and seeing. I think, you know, this person saying they're an adult, and maybe if they were younger, thinking like around YA. I'm an adult. I do sometimes like YA books. And I don't just think the message of the story was true love. They captured it a little bit in the Twin Desires That Rule Us All, and I think the way that it was done was very palatable. So maybe in that sense it's not as like dark as they wanted it to be, but I think it was done in a way that a lot of people could easily grasp in their own lives and see why it was so important. Okay, here's another good one. This was one of the first books that got me back into reading fantasy and fantasy romance specifically. I think this might have been actually the very first one. I don't recall whether I read this first or Raven Kennedy's Plated Prisoner series, but let's go ahead and check out Song of the Forever Rains by E.J. Mello. I need to do a reread of this because at this point it's been like 3 years since I read it, but overall the general premise is it follows Larkara, who is the youngest of 3 sisters, and they are all princesses of this kingdom, Jabari, where their father is, can't remember if he's like the king or if he's just a noble, but they're in one of the noble families who run the country or world, whatever it is. Yeah, very specific, very great descriptions here. Anyways, so she's one of the youngest sisters, and the sisters are a part of their family, like solves crimes and does like special missions, I will say. It's not like a crime fighting thing, it's more like spies and assassins type of world, but that's kind of what they do. And so she is sent on a mission to win over this duke of this far off country and to find out like why all these drugs are infiltrating her home area. And along the way there's like, she has powers, her sisters have powers, there's magic and all these things she has to solve, as well as finding love. Not the best description, but that's overall what is involved. And so let's go ahead. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. This person says the writing in this was actually worse than the writing in Atlas 6, which is a low, low bar. It was so bad I kept sending screenshots to family members. Hard DNF. That's actually kind of crazy because I just finished reading the Atlas 6 like 3 days ago, and I actually really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star, but in my review I also said that ultimately long term it's probably gonna be more of a 3-star for me. I didn't feel like emotional, like I didn't feel like the message of the story emotionally impacted me that much. I loved some of the characters a lot and I liked it overall, but it didn't like totally hit me, but I liked it. Like I thought it was really good. Last one for Song of the Forever Rain. So this one says, I super wanted to enjoy this book. The concept was so interesting and the world building was phenomenal, but the book just could not grasp my interest. And not to be dramatic, but literally nothing happens. I will say the prologue was fantastic. If you're gonna read anything, read about the Bassett sisters meeting Achek in the first 10 pages or so. All fantasy books tend to be slow at the beginning, and I stuck it out. I was a bit confused at the choice of making it a third-person dual POV, and I personally don't think it was executed very well. I think this book would have been more interesting if we only read from Larkara's POV, which I thought it would be going into the book. Okay, so it keeps going on from there. I think that this is okay. Like I accept this as a 1-star review. I act as if though I'm like the author or something, but no, I accept this because they shared that they actually did, you know, like something, which is great. So I think that shows that it really wasn't for them if they liked something, but they still gave it a 1-star review. Like, it was just too slow for them. And that's that. I agree that fantasy books do tend to be slower in the beginning, and it just didn't pick up enough for them. I don't remember having any thoughts on the pacing of the book, so yeah, maybe they were just in the mood for something different, so I'm okay with that kind of 1-star review. Okay, I think that's all that I will go over for now. I'm surprised I did not have my feelings hurt at all. Maybe it's just because I'm too, like, I'm gonna like it anyway. I don't care what you have to say. So it doesn't really bother me if they don't like it. And I'll find a way to defend the author anyway. Or the book, I should say. But yeah, again, let me know if you read any of these, or if you maybe gave any of these books 1-star reviews as well. You don't need to tell me why, because I will still love it. But let me know your thoughts and how you feel when people give your favorite books 1-star reviews. Does it crush you, or are you kind of like, whatever, I don't care anyway? Yeah, feel free to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. I share videos similar to this about reading, the joy of reading, and some of my favorite books. So I would love for you to stay tuned in the future for more. But thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in another video very soon.